What's up, my fellow property managers? Man, it is middle of March in Denver, Colorado, and I'm not even joking. It says it's 70 degrees outside. So I'm finishing up early today, and I'm going mountain bike riding because weather says tomorrow we're getting snow. So if you know anything about Colorado, the saying here is if you don't like the weather, just wait 30 minutes. So proven true over here in the next 24 hours. So anyhow, on my way home here, wanted to chat about tenant painting in a property. And if you've done property management for any length of time, you've probably had a tenant ask if they can do some painting at the property. It's probably the most common alteration request that we get. Of course, sometimes they don't request it, right? They just go out there and they just start painting like crazy, and you show up for an inspection kind of baffled at why they thought that was okay. So you definitely want to make sure you're making it clear to your tenants when they're moving in that any alterations, including paint, needs to be approved. But assuming they do the right thing and they come to you asking if they can paint, you kind of want to follow a procedure. And it's not uncommon if you take over a property that the owner, when they lived there, they had young children and one of them was a boy. It might be painted blue in a bedroom, or one of the if they have girls, you might have girl themed pink paint or different borders or what have you. So when you have tenants move in and they don't have that gender children, they may not want that bright blue or bright pink paint in there. So it's not unreasonable for them to request painting. The procedure that we follow is all alterations have to be approved by the owner. So painting would certainly be one of those. I tell the tenants that the best chance that they'll have to get that request approved is if they decide to paint a neutral color. And because every time a tenant's ever told me, oh, we'll paint it back when we move out, they never do, because they get so busy with their move and finding their next house and packing and cleaning, they just don't have time to actually paint. So you end up having to deal with that through the deposit claim. So we just try to avoid that altogether and tell them it needs to be a neutral color, and we want them to go select that color first. So if they're going to go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Sherwin-Williams or whatever their local painting center is, go in there and pick one of those little rectangular palette cards that has the color that they've decided they'd like to paint, and ask them to provide us a written request via email with a few pieces of information, one being the brand of the paint, so we can pull up that brand paint's website, and then we need to know the color name as well as the color code. That's a little unique code for that particular color on those palette cards. And once we get that request, we just forward it off to the owner. We tell them that the owner or the tenant has requested to paint. Also which rooms they want to paint. That's the other thing. So we'll let them know, hey, the tenant wants to paint, the upstairs bedroom, and this is the brand name of the paint. We'll include the link to the website. I'll actually go find that color for them and give them the direct URL straight to that color, and just ask the owner, hey, are you okay with this? And they normally reply right back. Usually they're okay with it. The cost, we let the tenant know that the full cost of the paint is going to be on them, unless there's been some agreement, to the contrary. But in most cases, we tell them if you want to paint, it's at your cost. We don't pay for the materials or the labor. And not only that, but they have to do a good job, when they do the paint. I'll get more into that. So, once the owner replies back saying that they're okay with it, we'll print that email to PDF and just keep that in the file. Now, of course, this is all governed by your management agreement. Maybe you have authority to make these decisions for your owners without having to run it by. I like to, personally, I like having the owners to have a little bit of say in that. That way, if something does go wrong, at least it was a joint decision between us to let the tenants paint. So obviously, follow your management agreement. But once it's approved, we go back to the tenant and we tell them that, hey, you're approved to do the painting, with that color that you selected. We also let them know that this is not a blanket approval. So just because we've approved you in this one instance to do this room or rooms, whatever they've requested, that doesn't mean that you now can go paint other areas of the house without coming to us first and getting additional approvals. So make that clear to them. You don't want them to just think that they have carte blanche to go paint crazy. Secondly, this is when I tell them that, look, you need to do a good job. If you don't have the ability and the skill set to paint without damaging the property, then you need to hire someone. And we're happy to recommend one of our vendors to do that. Once again, cost would fall on the tenant for that. I've seen some of the horror stories when a tenant hit the ceiling. Every time they took the roller up the wall, they nailed the ceiling with that color. And you have a little spot, a 2-inch spot of color from that roller wheel that hit the ceiling all around the room. And so I tell them, if you're going to do things like that, or you're going to drip paint down the baseboards and into the carpeting, or not remove the switch plates before you paint, you got paint all over the switch plates. If you're going to paint like that, you probably shouldn't do it. But if you have painted some before and you feel confident that you can do it well, have at it. Just know that if there is any damages, we're going to have that corrected when you move. So if you do hit the ceiling every time, I got to send a painter in to paint the ceiling, and it's going to cost a lot more money for me to have it professionally done than it would have cost for you to either not do that or fix it yourself. So once that's made clear, we give them approval to do it. I tell them also, once you're finished with the paint job, we need photos of it, because our process is when a tenant moves in, or prior to move-in, we do a move-in inspection. We take 360 photos of every room. So if that bedroom was bright blue, we're going to have that notated in the file. That is a blue bedroom. We're going to have that in our photos. And now that that's changed, we need our inspection documents to reflect the current reality in the property. So we'll have them take a few pictures showing the work that they did. One that's just good for quality control. Hopefully you'll be able to see from that if they did hit the ceiling or get any paint on any areas that should not have been painted. But also we'll go into our move-in inspection software, and we'll go ahead and add those photos, and we'll make a notation in that particular room that on this date the tenant painted per authorization that we gave them. So that's how we go about it. You really haven't had a lot of problems. As long as you're proactive with tenants and you lay out the expectations, that will help ward off a lot of problems downstream. Of course, it's not ever going to be perfect. You'll still have sometimes where you'll have situations that you have to deal with, but for the most part, that's always worked out well for us. And now, it's to the advantage of the owner. They got that room painted, which you probably told them up front that, hey, that's a really bright, bold color that most people may not like. But the owner didn't have it in their budget at the time to paint it, and now they got it done for free. So everyone's happy. The landlord got a free area painted in their home. Tenants happy. The other advantage is the more you let tenants make that house their home, the longer they're probably going to stay and the better care of the home they're going to take. At least that's been our experience. Same thing with landscape alterations, or if they want to put in some gardening beds or things like that. The more changes they make to the home, they've now got some skin in the game. They've put some time and effort into that property. So now it's a little harder to want to move after they've done that. So, those are some benefits you can tell the owner when they're trying to decide whether or not they want to let the tenant do painting. Like I said, if you follow that process each time, it usually works out pretty well, and it prevents it from coming to bite you in the butt later. Take care.